my journey to the Science Advisor's Office started from the time I work as a pathologist in the Veterinary Research Institute in Ipoh. Yeah. And then one day when I was visiting the veterinary headquarters here in Kuala Lumpur, was talking to one of the senior officers at the headquarters, Dr. Nordin Kling. There was a knock at the door, and in walked Dr. Rashdan Baba. Dr. Rashdan was the principal of the agriculture of Serdang Agriculture College, which was being turned into University Pertanian Malaysia, and he was the designated vice chancellor of this university. And he came in and asked Dr. Nordin, I'm looking for a dean for my veterinary faculty at UPM. Can you recommend one? And Dr. Nordin said, there's your dean over there pointing at me. What was happening was that Tun Abdul Razak, our second Prime Minister, was very keen to develop agriculture. He had already established Mardi, and now he was trying to enhance education in agriculture. So Serdang Agriculture College was being turned into UPM. And the beginning of the university, for the beginning of the university, they wanted to establish 3 faculties: agriculture, forestry, and veterinary medicine. So Dr. Rashdan was looking for somebody to start the veterinary school. And I was, to cut the story short, I was chosen to be that person. So my work was to start the veterinary faculty from scratch. And then after graduating our first group of veterinarians in 1978, I went away for my sabbatical to California, spent half of my sabbatical time there, and then the other half back to Cambridge. By the way, I had completed my PhD in Cambridge in pathology way back in 1966. The first veterinarian to have a PhD, the first Malay to have to get a PhD in a veterinary subject. And if I remember correctly, I did make inquiries. I might be the first Malaysian PhD from Cambridge University, actually. This was in 1966. When I came back to UPM after sabbatical, I spent 2 years teaching. And then in 1982, I was made Deputy Vice Chancellor. That was the time I was given the responsibility for research in the university in addition to other academic activities. Then I got interested in reorganizing research. I became a member of MPKSN. I became interested in the development of science and technology for the whole country through MPKSN. And I remember I was also then a member of, and then working with Dr. Rajakumar, who was at that time president of MSA, I organized a forum at UPM on how to strengthen science for the country, and we invited the Foreign Secretary of the American Academy of Science. He came and talked to us about the role of science and the role of academy. Actually, that was the beginning of our own ASN. That's another story. And because of my interest in the development of science, for not just for the university but for the country, the reorganization of research, when the Science Advisor's position was established in the Prime Minister's Department in 1982 or in 1983, as a matter of fact, my name cropped up as one of the possible candidates for that. I understand there were 8 names given to the Prime Minister's Department, and my name was picked up to be that person. So I became science advisor on the 1st July 1984. That's how the story began. It's quite a long journey from a laboratory in Ipoh to the science advisor's office in Jalan Dato' On at that time. Well, when I was appointed science advisor, it wasn't, looking back, it wasn't really advised to the Prime Minister. It was more helping the Prime Minister to get information, to provide him information on the area of his interest. That's how we started anyway. Because the first job given to me was to see how we might benefit from the semiconductor industry in Malaysia. Part of the foreign direct investment to Malaysia at that time was the establishment of semiconductors companies or factories in Penang and in the Klang Valley. And he was asking how we can benefit more out of this, how can we learn more about that. So it is providing the information to get that. And that's how we started establishing MIMOS. The other thing was he wanted to know how we can get involved in manufacturing using a carbon composite. That's how we established CTRM. And CTRM now is a big company in Batu Berendam, Melaka, doing composite components for the big aircraft, Airbus and Boeing. Of course, it started by building the two-seater light aircraft, Eagle aircraft, which was completely made of composite. So that was the kind of job. But then we got interested in other things. People come to me with ideas of how we need to strengthen our activities in research and development, how we might want to strengthen the infrastructure for STI in the country. And it so happened that soon after I became science advisor, this was 84, the government was already preparing for the 5th Malaysia Plan, which was to begin from 86 to 1990. As a science advisor, I became a member of MPKSN. Became both member of MPKSN, which is the science part, and member of NDPC, the National Development Planning Committee. And during the first meeting of NDPC talking about the 5th Malaysia Plan, I suggested that we should have one chapter of the 5th Plan devoted to looking at improving SNT at that time, SNT. And NDPC agreed. The chair of NDPC at that time was Tan Sri Salahuddin, and he said he agreed. So we started working on what the chapter on SNT should be. That was the beginning, actually, of looking at SNT right across the board as a national agenda, rather than as ministerial or institutional agenda. That led later on to the first science policy, the first SNT policy, and the second SNT policy. I was involved with both. And the most recent policy, the STI policy, which was approved by Cabinet this year, I was very much involved with that through the academy as well as through the National Research Council. So I was involved with the science policy. I helped to establish or to get government to agree the establishment of IRPA, the first of funding, additional funding for research in priority areas, over and above the funding that is already allocated to research institutes and universities to carry out their research responsibilities. So IRPA then grew. It became more than IRPA now. It became a science fund, innovation fund, all kind of things now, which now amount to more than 2 billion. And then when we started, our total national funding for R&D was very small, maybe about 0.5% or so. And the target was to reach 1.5 of GDP, 1.5% of GDP. We never reached that, although we say we wanted to do that. But 2011, according to the record, we have reached the highest level of public sector R&D ever, or national R&D ever, 1.07% of GDP. This is a healthy growth from a much smaller proportion of GDP to what it is now. And my hope is, of course, that we will reach 1.5% of GDP in the next few years. Because without that, without a concerted effort in R&D right across the board, both so-called basic and applied research, we will not be able to support the new economic policy punya agenda. We will not meet the national economic transformation program that the government aspires to. The government now wants the country to become an innovation-driven, private sector-led economy. We will never reach that unless our effort in science, technology, and innovation is increased, and the capacity of our private sector is increased to use or to be looking forward to using innovation. So this is part of the thing that I think the scientific community in the country now is looking to help the government develop that. I know Academy of Sciences is interested very much to do this. And as I said earlier, I am on the National Science and Research Council. The council is also working very hard to see that we do the right thing to strengthen science, technology, and innovation so that we can reach the innovation-driven economy, private sector-led.